Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. Happy to be here with you yet again. It's Dave. My name is Dave. Nice to meet you. I am in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, near Niagara Falls. It's, for those that don't know, it's a big hill, and there's lots of water that goes over the hill, and people come from all around the world to look at water going over a hill. It is beautiful. I got to tell you, I love it. You can always go over to my social media and see pictures I've taken in video from the falls. If you want to virtually travel to the falls, I'm here as your tour guide. I would love to share those with you. And if you're ever in Niagara, hey, reach out. I'm not shy. Well, I am shy. I would love to meet you and chat with you and take you for coffee and all that great stuff. Anyway, nice to be here with you on the podcast. I am doing an episode because I was encouraged to do so when I was listening to another podcast. The other podcast is called Buzzcast, and it's by the people who work at Buzzsprout, where some of my podcasts are hosted. And I love Buzzsprout. Amazing team, amazing people, great tool to host your podcast. They'll take care of you, and you will love them because they are awesome. That's where I started, was with Buzzsprout right from the beginning, and I'm still with them like 4 or 5 years in. I love them. Great guys. Great team. Everybody there's amazing. So they have their own podcast. They do it every second week. I listen to podcasts on Spotify. They don't release their podcasts on Spotify. So I listen to them on iHeartRadio. And it's a great podcast. Fun banter between 3 people. And they get off topic quite often, which I enjoy. But they also bring up some amazing things from a podcast hosting site's perspective around podcasting that you may never hear as a podcaster who doesn't really listen to a lot of podcasts about podcasting, except for this one, obviously, because you're here right now. Thank you. So what I wanted to do is bring a snippet from the show in, give you a little commentary around it, and refer back to an article that this little portion of their episode was based on, because I really think you should look at it when you get in front of gurus that tell you that you have to is the key words here, have to, with quotes and big, bolded, uppercase, have to, underlined, in red, have to have a video component to your podcast, and how absurd it is to make it mandatory that you, as an audio podcaster recording an episode of your podcast, have to, again, can I stress the word have to? Yeah, okay, one more time. Have to, mandatory, have a video podcast. It's a must. And I'm here to say it's not a must. It's great if you can, and if that's your giftings, awesome. Then do it and do it really well. But I'm talking to the podcaster who maybe, for example, doesn't want to be on video because they want to remain anonymous, right? So that's one person. Maybe you're doing a true crime podcast and you're recording a 2-hour episode of a true crime story, and now you're telling me I have to do a video of me recording an audio podcast by myself? Anyways, so when I clicked play on this episode last night at work, listening to it at like 2:45 in the morning while you were so tightly warm in your bed. Dave's at work, and I'm listening to this episode, and I immediately thought of you because I've had many people reach out to me in the past and even recently saying, Dave, I want to be a podcaster, but I hear that I have to do video and I don't have the money to buy all the gear. I don't want to be on camera, on video. I guess I'm not going to be a podcaster. I've got a great message for the world, but if I have to do video, I'm not going to do it. So this episode is for you, okay? Again, to my video podcasters out there, I'm not here to tell you to stop. Do it, and do it well. There's amazing video podcasts on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. You can watch video podcasts. You guys are amazing at what you do, so by no means am I telling you to stop. But for a new podcaster who feels overwhelmed with the amount of additional work it is to be a podcaster, the clips you're going to hear from Buzzcast from our friends at Buzzsprout are going to help you and reinforce you that you don't have to be a video and audio podcast. You can be whatever works for you. So here's a little clips from it. I'll jump in, kind of direct the conversation to where we want to go here on the How to Podcast series. But here's a little clip from our friends over at Buzzsprout as they jump into the topic of video podcasting. You ready? Put your seatbelt on. Okay. Here we go.
There was also an interesting article written by the podcast host where they surveyed 100 independent podcasters to talk about how they were using YouTube for podcasting.
Yeah, I love this article.
And there's some really interesting takeaways here. But most of all, a quote from Colin Gray. He said, "Video is killing more podcasts right now than anything else, or anything else ever has."
Preach it, brother.
And he says that's due to the pressure that podcasters are feeling about creating video component for their podcast.
Agreed.
I've said this quite a few times. The reason people aren't starting podcasts is because it's not the technical issue. There's some technical issues. Yeah, I have to get a mic. I have to learn how to talk into it. I have to learn how to do some basic editing. There's some technical things to solve. But more than that is an emotional thing to solve. I'm nervous about putting my name out there. I'm worried I'm going to sound dumb. I'm not sure. Should I even be talking about this? Or maybe should somebody else be talking about it? There's way more qualified people out there. You're dealing with all of this type of things. And as soon as you say, and to promote the podcast, you also have to be on video and you have to learn how to edit and you have to learn how to do all this extra stuff and you have to put it on YouTube. And then you got to cut those clips into 3 different types. And then you need to upload those to TikTok and Instagram, and you need to have a Pinterest account.
Are you serious?
And it's like, as soon as you tell people all of that, they go, "Oh, great news. I never have to face this. I never have to think about it because I already felt a little bit uncomfortable about it." And when you just explain to me something that takes 40 hours a week, I already have a job, so I can't do it. And I think that's why we see so many people say things like, if only I had a team or I could go full time, then I would make podcasting work. But the more that we tell people, you need to be doing video, you need to be doing social, you need to be doing nonstop promotion, a newsletter and a blog as well. Well, then they'll just say, easy answer, I've already got a job. I don't need a new job. And they can just quit. I think it would be much healthier for us just to say, hey, you can do podcasts by themselves. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. And you can play with it. You can experiment. And if you like it, you can keep doing it. And if you don't, you can stop. We'd have so many more people be successful in podcasting than if we said, here's the tried and true, proven, perfect Joe Rogan plan that involves video and social and everything else. It's just overwhelming.
This, to me, this concept or idea that in order to be a successful podcaster, you also have to do a YouTube video channel or something, or create video, some sort of video component to whatever you're producing in the podcasting world. I think it's similar in my mind to saying to somebody who wants to write a book that, well, you're really not going to be successful as an author unless you also create a movie. Yeah. It's the dumbest possible take on podcasting that I've heard maybe ever in the history of podcasting that I've been in it, as long as I've been in it.
Oh, you've been on this show way too long for that to be true, Kevin. I'm going to go find some hot takes.
Yeah. And so I get really fired up about this because podcasting is different than video. I don't want to be a negative person about video, but it is different. And so could you use video to help grow your podcast? Absolutely. Do you have to? No. Are they the same thing? No, they're not at all. And all of the points that Alvin just made are true, plus the fact that they are different, should make anybody who's really passionate, excited about podcasting, getting more people interested and excited about podcasting and helping people start and create and continue podcasting. Stop telling the lie that video is critical to your success as a podcaster, that is the way that you're going to grow your show, that's the next best thing that you can do for your show. Does it make sense for some shows? Yes. Does it make sense for shows that reach a certain threshold? Yeah. No, I'm not saying that. We're saying it's not a universal rule that applies to everybody. It is not a requirement to get started. If you hate video, if you never want to do video, that doesn't exclude you from podcasting by any stretch. You can have a huge, successful, positive impact in the world in a very successful podcast without ever doing anything in video. And anybody who cares about podcasting should be reminding people of this the moment they mention video. If you want to push through that, if you understand you don't have to and you still want to, wonderful. Let's go have a conversation about video. But to feed into this lie that it's a requirement or at some point you'll have to, or you should get to know it, or to have any success or achieve any goal in podcasting is probably the worst lie that's being told in podcasting, at least right now.
Think about other areas. And how does it sound if someone said, I'm trying to get a little bit healthier. What should I do? People are like, oh, you should try to drink less soft drinks. And they'd go, great. We all know if you were to stop drinking soft drinks and drink water instead, you would be healthier. But imagine another friend goes, if you really want to get healthy long term, you're going to have to be lifting weights. And then this person is like about to start. They're like, oh, now I guess I'm going to have to learn about lifting weights too. I don't know about that. Somebody else comes in and says, and you've got to be running pretty much every day for 45 minutes. And somebody else comes in and says, if you're not eating organic, I don't know what the point is. And somebody else comes in and says, seed oils, we got to talk about that, and doing these cold plunges. And you just start getting more and more people saying there's additional things. All of those might end up being good things. But for somebody who just asked a first question of, I think I want to do something for my health, I'm looking at cutting back on something that's not very healthy, and they got one good answer and they're kind of excited about it. Maybe I'll replace soft drinks for water. For them to get 40 additional pieces of recommendations about how to fully optimize their health is not helpful. What they will do is they will just go, this is way too much. I'm just going to stick it out. I'm kind of okay the way I am. And we know that it doesn't work to overload people with tons of stuff. And if they just want to podcast, then good. If they just want to blog, then good. If they just want to do a social media page, good. They're all great ideas. If you're drawn to one of them, do it. But adding on, basically say the only reason to do any is if you do all. Well, you're just going to do none. And yet if they just started, they would probably be a great podcaster, and they would have had the bandwidth eventually to say, do I want to experiment with video? They could make that decision on their own terms. But being added, all of this stuff is really, really overbearing. Mm-hmm. I do not have the face for a video podcast. So we could just let it be audio only, because that's what we all are excited about. And we don't have to feel like we're missing out just because we're not also doing 10 other things.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say that anybody who really cares about podcasting, if they're pushing a video component for people who are starting out, that they're really doing a disservice to the person who they're talking to and the podcasting ecosystem overall. I don't have any hard data on this, but I just know the amount of energy and effort and money and technical knowledge that it takes to produce high quality video versus audio is an order of magnitudes harder. So we're talking a minimum of 10x harder. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's gotten 1 or 2 or 3 DSLRs, or even filming off of an iPhone or a high-end Android and getting 4K video and trying to capture any amount of that, a 30-minute segment or something onto a computer, it takes gigs and gigs of space. It takes some of the most powerful, laptop or desktop computers in order to be able to edit that efficiently without your computer crashing multiple times, keeping the audio and video in sync, getting the lighting right. The complexity is enormous. And the reality in any sort of creative effort that we move forward with, whether it be blogging or writing a book or doing a weekly newsletter or podcasting, the harder it is, the less likely it is that the fewer amount of people that will be able to stick with it long enough to be able to see any sort of success. Okay. And so what you're talking about is what the Albin's analogy earlier of somebody who wants to try something that is relatively easy on the scale of like how much time it takes to try it, how much it costs to try it, how much technical knowledge is required to try it. And then you're putting on this requirement that in order to really be successful there, you have to do this thing that is massively hard. Like even the people who have the highest end computers and are pretty technical and are into all this technology stuff as a hobby, so many of them try this and still fail. And that's what you're going to give as an alternative or a prerequisite, or even, hey, do you think this is a good idea? So I'll go back to Albin's fitness analogy because I like this. If somebody walks into a gym and meets with a trainer day one, and the person says, yeah, I want to get in a little bit better shape, so I'm going to start on the bike for 5 minutes. And then as soon as they get done with the bike for 5 minutes, they're like, now I'm going to go over to the squat rack and I'm going to do 1,000 pounds. That trainer would be like, what? No, you'll die. You're not ready for that yet. It will kill you. you'll feel like you failed. It will take you out of this and you won't make any progress on your fitness journey. And that's really what I want for you. But what we have is the exact opposite having in the podcast industry right now is there are a lot of people in the podcasting industry who are saying, yeah, you're right. We do need to get you on that squat rack. We do need to put on 1,000 pounds. You got to start doing that because if you don't, you're never really going to make it on your fitness journey. Terrible advice, the worst advice. And I love this article, the way that they frame it is that video is taking out more podcasters. It's the biggest deterrent to podcasting we've seen in a very long time.
I tried buying into that a little bit and I before I started working for you guys, I upgraded like some of my equipment and I got a backdrop and I got these like color lights and I was like, I'm going to use this stuff for videos, even though my podcast doesn't actually need it. Cause I was like, I've heard from so many people that it helps your podcast grow, So just doing video for social media. If I was just doing like a 5-minute thing as a podcast, as a Snapcast, it's going to take me, let's say 10 minutes just for like setup, recording, done. It's going to take me that long.
Uh-huh.
But recording a 5-minute video would take me like an hour. It was just like so insane how long it would like, even not including the prep for it, because I'd have to like plan things out, make sure everything's like looking good and, all this stuff. I mean, it would just take me forever to record a 5-minute video. And did it matter in the end? No. So yeah, I'm with you.
Now, there's people I know who get really fast at this.
Yes,
but
I can think of a few.
There's just like, you don't go into the gym and look at the biggest guy and go, whatever he's doing is what I should be doing. You should actually go and look at the person who's one step ahead of you and go, okay, how do I follow them? And I loved seeing all these podcasters, not who are doing millions of downloads. That's not who I want to look at. I don't want to see the person who's just signed a 9-figure deal with Spotify. Let me go find the person who's been relatively successful, who's gotten some cool connections from podcasting, is talking about their passion, is consistently in putting out new episodes. I talk to thousands of these people every year. And the pretty consistent thing is they have jobs and they go, I'm really into this topic, whether it be pens or crochet, or it's Dungeons and Dragons, or it's something totally different. And I love talking about it on a podcast. And I get together, me and 2 other people, and we record and we clean it up and we post it. And then they might tell you about some marketing stuff that they experimented with. And that could be any number of things, but they almost never started with, I'm going to do everything and I'm going to pretend that I'm a media super athlete. And thus I'm able to do all of the TikToks and the Instagrams and LinkedIn and YouTube posts and everything I need to do. They mostly will start with one thing and grow. So maybe don't trust the hype. Lots of people are getting on to YouTube podcasts because they made it very easy to onboard your audio podcast. But I would say if you do it, just let it go into YouTube Music. That's great. Now it's out there. And then see, does this really take off? And probably won't because it's audio only, but it might give you a little bit of a taste of what might be out there for you. But don't imagine that the video component is a must-have for your show because it likely isn't.
Okay, so did that help? Like, did you hear? Okay. I feel a rant coming on. Okay, yep, there's a rant. Here we go. One sec. Okay, sorry. It's coming. When the rants come, everyone, the rants come. Here we go. One sec.
And now, it is time for Dave to share a most excellent rant on something that he just won't stop talking about. Please allow Dave to share his thoughts on this particular subject so that his glorious wife Jennifer may have a moment of rest from Dave going on and on about this topic. Here is Dave and his rant for this week.
Okay, so we're listening to that clip really gets me fired up because I talk to podcasters all the time who are just completely overwhelmed with all of the stuff that other gurus pile onto their plate. It's like, why do I have to do all of these things? And then one of them that really annoys me is the fact that you have to have a blog for every episode of your podcast. I record an episode for you. Hi. And then I put it out there into podcast land. And now I have to sit down and write War and Peace, like a novel, a whole article about what I've done. And it's got to have keywords and rankings. And I got to make sure that set it up properly. And I got to have a page for every episode on my website with a complete article that's adjacent to and not just the transcript of what I'm saying. My notes that are in your phone right now, as you look at your phone in your hand and you see the words there, that's not enough. No. You got to do like an entire article. I got to become a writer. And because that's the minimum to be a podcaster is you also have to be a blogger. Now, if I wanted to be a blogger, I would not be a podcaster. There you go. I would quit podcasting and I'd go be a writer. There you go. I don't see bloggers that are being forced into podcasting just the same way that I don't think podcasters need to be forced into blogging. This is ridiculous. And if anybody's telling you you have to be a blogger to be a podcaster, it's like they're married to each other somehow in a relationship and you can't separate them. You can't divorce the two. I'm telling you, that is ridiculous. You can be an audio podcaster and be done. You can use a free software like Audacity that I'm using right now and be done. You can have a free podcasting host like Spotify for podcasters and be done. You can podcast from your phone. You don't need a microphone and be done. All of these extras that people are trying to sell you and sign you up for. It is ridiculous. I heard last night, again, about 3:32 in the morning, a podcaster who has a course for $2,000 where he will teach you how to be a podcast guru. And you'll get a certificate from some guy who made a program and he's going to graduate you as a podcast guru for $2,000. I then go to another podcast and they have a mastermind. It's a great deal, everyone. Are you ready for this? You want to sign up? You reach out. I'll set you up. It's only, are you ready? Okay, $25,000 a year to be a part of this mastermind. A podcaster mastermind for $25,000. Hang on, $25,000 to get on a Zoom call with a bunch of other podcasters? I think I'm missing the boat here in podcasting. I could be making a crap load of money. I could charge you guys so much. Oh my, I'm doing the evil tapping of the fingers that you'll see on every bad guy movie. I could make money off of you. No, please do not fall victim to all of this stuff in podcasting. Please. And I'm going to leave a link to the Buzzcast episode that we played. And I'm also going to leave you a link to the article they're referencing in the show notes. That's your thing on your phone, not on my website, not a blog. No. I'm a podcaster. I'm not a writer. On your phone will be everything you need to click the link and go there whenever you have time to click it. It's there for you. Okay? You don't have to go anywhere else, sign up for a thing, pay me $25,000 to be in a group. No. Nothing like that. You can simply go to your phone and everything you need is there. Okay? If you're listening online, everything is there. Okay, it's there. It's free. Everything is there. That's how podcasting should be, everyone. Stop frustrating your audience and making them jump through hoops because you're fascinated by the next shiny thing. That's not the way podcasting works. It's supposed to be for everyone, including you. So if you've been hearing people talk you down and force you into a plan or sign up for this or download this and buy this and get this camera and get these lights and get this backdrop and did a lot. I want you to hear something from me. You don't need it to be a podcaster. Can you do it if you want to in the future? Yes. It's your show. Do whatever you like, but you don't have to do any of this crap. You can just be a podcaster and don't feel like you're not as good as everyone else. Because the majority of podcasts are audio. The majority of podcasters don't do video. So the majority of podcasters don't make a penny with their show. Nothing. They have no sponsors. Nothing. They make no money at all. Nobody jumps in with a mattress ad in the middle of their podcast. They don't make any money. You are the majority. You're not the minority in podcasting. So stop letting people put you in a box. Okay? Stop it. You are great at what you do. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Please. So the other parts that I see in this article that I wanted to bring out, because there's a few more things that really stand out to me. And again, the link will be in the show notes. They talk about how podcasters are really using YouTube. 41% of podcasters on YouTube are publishing full video episodes of their podcasts. But what about the other 59% of podcasters on YouTube? Myself included. 60.9% of podcasters on YouTube are doing full episodes with a static image. That's not a movie, not a video, just a picture on YouTube. All of my shows, for the most part, maybe a couple episodes here and there, are all static image on YouTube, which feeds YouTube Music app on your phone, right? The app, and is set up as a podcast. 60.9%. That's a big group, everyone. And if you're like me and that's how you do it, you're being shamed by people who tell you that it's a terrible idea and you should never do it. We call them fake videos where I come from, is what I hear from gurus. And those people they're forcing you to be a video podcaster or to not be on YouTube at all is what they really would prefer. But I'm getting great interaction with you and with others on my show. You can follow the How to Podcast series on YouTube. We've got 100 and plus subscribers right now. I'd love to have you come join us. 60.9% of podcasters are doing exactly what I'm doing and just posting their podcast onto YouTube. It's the audio only with an image. That's it. 60.9, not 50, not 30, not 10%. 60.9 of us are doing it this way. So welcome to the club. And for those gurus who tell us it's a terrible idea, maybe you should read this article. The second one, full episodes with accompanying video, is 40.6. Short clips or highlights, 15.9% of podcasters on YouTube are doing short clips and highlights. That's it. We are doing it, and it's fine. We don't have to do video. The main takeaway from the survey, again, it's from podcasthost.com. It's the business of podcasting, video podcasts on YouTube. And again, the link's in the show notes on your phone, not on my website. The main takeaway from the survey is that there is a rise in the number of podcasts on YouTube. Yay! And the rise in listeners using YouTube to consume podcast content is not the same thing as the rise in video podcasts. These scenarios should not be conflated. There's no arguing that YouTube is an excellent platform for listening to podcasts being found by people on YouTube as well, especially where discoverability is concerned. And it's becoming more popular every day to have your podcast on YouTube and to be found there. But it's not necessarily indicative of a need for more video. It's indicative of more people using YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google, also owned by Google, which is why videos are always prioritized in Google searches, because so many people are already on YouTube. They're using it more for podcast listening. It's as simple as that. So I want you to go ahead over and read the article, go through here. There's way more information. I could do multiple episodes just from this one article, but I wanted you to go through and read it. I want you to go check out all the graphs and all the information and all the quotes and all the subsequent links that they link out from. There's a ton of information here. And the biggest thing I want you as a listener to go away with from this episode is to not be overwhelmed by all of the additional things that somebody's going to throw at you the moment you come up with an idea for a podcast. You will not experience that here. I'm going to bring on experts that will help you if you want to do a blog, if you want to do Instagram and TikTok and your website and all these things. I will bring on amazing guests who will help you grow, but you don't need everything to start. Okay? You don't need it all. You just need to start. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're on the edge of starting, but every time you take a step forward, you feel like you're taking 10 steps back because you're not doing it the right way, because I'm not doing video, I want you to hear me. We need you in podcasting. We need your show. We need your story. There is no one else that can do your podcast. I can't do your show. You will come away with some of the best new friends you have ever met. Your circle of community is going to multiply 10 times right away by having guests on your show, connecting with other podcasters, being a part of this podcast community, which is full of some of the best human beings in the world, just by starting a show. You can make some money with your podcast with a Buy Me a Coffee, for example. You can reach out and get feedback from your audience with a SpeakPipe link. These are tools. They're not mandatory, but they will help you in your podcast journey. You do not need to make video a part of your podcast plan. You need to record an audio podcast, send it out to the majority of listeners who listen in audio format, save your money, put your wallet back in your purse, back in your pocket, save your cash. I have podcastforfree.com. It's a website that lists all of my free tools that I use. You don't need to spend any money on this to start. Another lie that the gurus will tell you, you have to spend money. You have to treat it like a business. No, you don't. You don't. You have to start. That's what you have to do. You don't have to treat this as a business. You can get on the microphone, talk about the thing you love, meet great people, grow your community, and then as your podcast grows, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. And there's people like me who will come alongside of you and help you grow. But you don't have to buy the entire thing on day one. Just start, please. And if you're having trouble finding the right way to start, you need somebody to come alongside of you. On my website is a calendar link. It is completely free. You can jump into my calendar, grab some time with me, and we will help you get over the hurdle of starting. And if this episode has given you value, I would love to hear from you. And my secret word here at the end of the podcast, because you're the amazing person who listened to the end, and in doing so, told the app that you're listening to on right now that this is a good podcast episode. So you are helping my podcast grow without giving me a single rating and review. Just by being here right now listening to me in this moment, you have now proven to YouTube, you have now proven to Spotify and Apple and Audible and AfroPods and Ghana and JioSaavn and Pocket Casts, and let's just keep going. You have proven to them that this, right now, is an episode worth promoting. Just by listening to the show, you haven't had to do anything extra. I don't need a rating and review. Do I love them? Sure. Does it make me feel warm and fuzzy? Okay, yes. But is it mandatory? Do I beg for them on my show? Do I end my every episode asking for a rating and review? A 5-star review, everyone. No. Why? Because you're proving right now that this episode is worth it. You're still here. So my secret word for you, which I'd love to hear back from you, and I know there are people who are going to respond to this, and I thank you so much for being here and being part of my community. It's amazing. My secret word for you is no video. Okay? Whether you're a video podcaster or not, I just want you to come back and leave me a message, however you want to reach out to me, with the 2 words, no video. Okay? Let me know that you heard this. I'd love to hear back from you. And we got great episodes coming up. To the team at Buzzsprout and Alan Buzzcast, I love your show. You guys are amazing. Really enjoy your podcast. Encourage everyone to go sign up to their show as well and hear the fun that these 3 people have. They're hilarious. And I just love how they do what they do. So Buzzcast and Buzzsprout team, thank you. And to everyone, please start your show. Would love to hear your podcast. And send me a link so I can listen. I would love to be there for you. Thanks for supporting the How to Podcast series. Great episodes coming up. I've got a few surprises coming in the future. I think you're going to be excited about some very interesting people coming on the show that I'm surprised I get time with. So, and I'm appreciative of all my guest co-hosts for making time for me. And I'm most appreciative of you for making time for the How to Podcast series. Thank you for being here. Take care. Keep podcasting, everyone. Hey, thanks for being here on the How to Podcast series. Glad to have you on the show with us, listening in. And I hope they're finding value in the podcast. I hope you're finding something that helps you with your show, helps you with the tools and the information from these amazing guest co-hosts through our daily Daves and these solo episodes. The variety of what we're doing here on the podcast is all designed for you so that you can get the tools you need to create your podcast and keep going with your show. That's why we're here. That's why I'm doing this. And I'm glad you're here finding value in this. If you would like to do a little bit more than just be a listener, if you want to do community with podcasters, we have a thing called our Meetup on meetup.com. You can come find us, and there'll be a link on our website at howtopodcast.ca, and you can come and join in on our Meetup. Instead of just being a listener, you could actually participate and come in and join other podcasters, just like you, at your stage, at your level, where you're at right now. And then other podcasters who are maybe a little further down the road, who can learn from you and you can learn from them. And we host these meetups on a regular basis. Again, go to howtopodcast.ca and you'll find all the information there. We'd love for you to come join us at our next meetup. The only thing we need at our next meetup is you. You're the only thing missing from all of this. So consider joining our meetups. Again, they're totally free on a regular basis, all through howtopodcast.ca. And I'd love to hear more from you about your podcast as well. There's a SpeakPipe link on howtopodcast.ca. Leave a message. I'd love to hear about you and your show and how we can work together to get your message into the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for sharing the show with another podcaster that you're like, hey, I think you'd really like this episode. Go ahead, share the episode, and let's get more podcasters on the mic. Thanks for listening.